Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Tracy, if you don't know me yet. And I pretty much live for developing lessons that help our kids build up their critical thinking and their creativity, which is why I love STEM challenges so much. So we're here today because I just created 4 new Halloween STEM challenges. And for the first week only, let me bump out of the way here. For the first week only, I decided to make this free for my subscribers as a thank you. So, first of all, if you are not a subscriber and you want these 4 challenges for free, you can use that bit.ly for Halloween STEM link right there. I mean, it's not clickable, but you can just type it in and it's case sensitive. So keep it all lowercase. And if you are seeing this after October 25th, that is the last day of it being free. So I'm so sorry because I know what a bummer that is. But if you look at the second link, KT email, all capital letters, that's how you can make sure you don't ever miss out again. So if you are watching this early enough, make sure that you grab what you need. And if you are watching this after the fact, sign up for the email list so you don't miss out again. Okay. So I do things like this from time to time. Now, today we are talking about the first of the 4 challenges, Pumpkin Pedestal. And we're going to go through a walkthrough of the challenge. I'm going to give you some ideas to modify the materials and make some changes for difficulty based on your students' age, abilities, and then also whether you've got social distancing or distance learning obstacles in your path. That doesn't mean you can't do STEM challenges. It just means we have to think about it a little bit differently. If you're watching this years down the line, yes, this is 2020. Hopefully we won't be in this thing forever. But, we always have germs and flu season to think about. So it's good to have some modifications for social distancing and distance learning. And I also wanted to make these STEM challenges a little bit more streamlined than my usual ones to make it a little bit easier to implement for parents and for teachers when times are kind of crazy. Okay. But I'm going to give you some ideas and tips today and throughout the week to do a little bit of a deeper dive if you want to, and if your kids want to, and all of that. Okay. So pumpkin pedestals. Basically, you have some different options here with this challenge, but the way that you can see it in the picture is I've set it up in a way where the kids have to take 10 of these pumpkin candies. I'm going to give you modifications in a minute because I know you're not always going to have pumpkin candies, right? There are 4 student printable handouts. And I'm going to also show you the Google Slides version because that's where you can obviously assign that out to your distance learning kids easily. But it's also, if you want to make any edits, you can do that. So I've kept the criteria and constraints list super simple and super flexible because it's really important to keep it open-ended because it's a STEM challenge, but also to allow for some different changes based on these different materials. So you can treat this like a straight tower challenge, keep it really, really simple and just be, your criteria are basically you've got to fit 10 pumpkins on this tower somewhere and you're aiming for the tallest tower. That's the simplest, easiest version of this challenge. If you want to kind of move it up a notch, we can do that. Let me go ahead and share the Google Slides, and I'm going to take this picture off for right now. And let me also just take off that little banner. I'll put it back up later if you need those links again. I'll put them up at the end one more time. So on the Google Slides version, I'm going to walk you through on this one because it'll be easier for you to see than me holding up the handouts. The first thing here is just editing in fonts. If you want to change anything, it just lets you know how to do that. I do want to point out one quick thing today. If you are a subscriber and you got this in your email, this section right up here under the teacher message was all garbled and it's been fixed now, but you either, I'll tell you how to get it at the end, the update. I'm going to send it back out later, but I want to call your attention to the margins because this is where I've left little notes for you. And also on the student slides, little notes for them, okay? So this is actually the link of this video that I'm making right now. And then there are some quick tips for you. And actually, let me just call out a couple of things right here. This points out that also the link to where you can sign up for the email if you missed the October 25th deadline. And there are some more tower challenges, and this is basically a tower challenge. So there are a couple other little playlists for some PD and some other tower challenge modifications you can make. And also I made some student facing videos for tower challenges in general. And those are all linked there if you want to take a deeper dive, but I'm doing my very best to keep things very simple and streamlined and then just give you little notes off to the side and through this video if you want to do a deeper dive. Some quick tips there and some other links. And then let's take a look at materials. This is where I wanted to settle in first for a moment. So the recommended materials are 10 pumpkin candies. If you don't have pumpkins, you can substitute with other candies, cotton balls, small erasers, etc. I'm going to actually stop sharing for a moment my screen and show you some ideas I had for stand-ins. Okay, first of all, I've set this up so that you can have it be pumpkin pedestals or a pumpkin platform or a pumpkin tower. Part of that is so that if you wanted to just have one pumpkin, like a mini pumpkin that's held at the top of the tower or platform, that's an option. But if we're going to do 10 pumpkins so that it makes it easy for you to have just not as many pumpkins as you can, so you don't have to worry about materials as much. I like the pumpkin candies if you have them for a couple of reasons. One of the things that I like to do is reuse my materials as much as I can. And I use these little pumpkin candies in a Thanksgiving challenge as well. And in that period of time, you could just have them being stored off to the side. It's a month between now and Thanksgiving, so they should be fine. You shouldn't need to like sanitize them. You can also use them in treat toss if you have that Halloween challenge, like a catapult, candy catapult. I have like these little erasers that I have that could work for pumpkins, bottle caps. I'm going to try to give you like things that are like clean trash and just like random things, because some of you are doing this as teachers. Some of you will be doing this as parents. So I'm trying to think of things you would have at home that could be reasonable. I actually have these little Easter eggs, and I end up using these quite a bit as well in different challenges. I got them initially for Nice Nest, but I could see like just having halves of these being different pumpkins, and they don't need to all be orange or green or whatever. It doesn't matter, but that might be something kids have lying around, or you might. As I said, these are things that I reuse a lot. Beads could be pumpkins, and even just get some scratch paper and roll it up into a ball. That's it. It's pretty simple, right? It doesn't have to be fancy. You just need 10 of something small if you want to do the pedestal type of challenge or version of this challenge. Okay. So I think those are all really good substitutions. Let's keep going on. Oh, I didn't mention earlier, if you have any questions and you're watching this live, just put them in the comments. If you're watching this after the fact, you can do the same thing, and I'll see it and I'll still go back to you. Oh, sorry. There's one more thing. I found these ice cube trays at Dollar Tree, and you could even do that. You could make ice cubes out of this. You could maybe do like a slime kind of thing. So there's slime pumpkins they need to put on a tower. I think you've got different options. And then that would just be something that, it adds a little bit of something to the challenge, right? If it's ice, because they've got to build it before it melts. So that could be fun. It could be interesting. And then it would be, being slippery and things like that. So it would add an element of kind of craziness. But, I don't want to ever put you in a position where you feel like, oh gosh, now I got to go out and get an ice cube tray shaped like pumpkins. You don't. I think you can see there are lots of different options that don't involve any extra money or going out of your way. If nothing else, they're scratch paper wadded up into 10 little balls, and you're ready to go. These are your pumpkins. You can even let the kids color it orange before they crumple it up or whatever, if you want it to look more festive. Okay. So back to the materials list. Keep myself honest here. 10 to 20 cotton swabs. You could see in the picture I showed earlier, and I'll show you pictures again when we get off. I used cotton swabs because I have those around, and I use those for a lot of the Halloween challenges. So I bring those out. You don't have to have those. You could just use, as you see, the last thing on this list is clean trash. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. It is helpful to have something like masking tape or some other adhesive or connector. So something that helps the kids actually put the tower together. It's not necessary. You can make a tower without any tape or any string or any pipe cleaners. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. So if you have a way of getting that to your kids, or you have it at home, that's great. And if not, then that just makes the challenge more challenging, and that's okay. Another idea is to have some craft sticks, but I don't give them too many of those because I think it makes the challenge too easy personally. But if you're trying to do this with like second or third grade and you have extra craft sticks, go for it. I should also say that part of the reason I don't do more craft sticks than that, one is that it makes it kind of easy. And two, it's a kind of a pricier material. And I tend to try to be as frugal as possible because I'm usually the one paying for materials. So things like craft sticks made out of like wood, unless we're going to reuse it, I don't tend to give them too many of those because I'm mean like that. And then clean trash, things like cardboard scraps, water bottle lids can work really well. So you can see, actually, let me bring back one of those pictures so you can kind of see. This one is made entirely out of just a few craft sticks. some cotton swabs, and water bottle lids. This one we did use hot glue because we had that, but you don't have to have it. Like I said, you can use tape, you can use pipe cleaner or wire. And if I didn't have that, I just would have made a different design. I just wouldn't have used, I just probably wouldn't have used the cotton swabs the way that I did because I needed the hot glue to get them to stick so that they could be good supports. But if I didn't have those materials available to me, I would just have been resourceful in different ways. I just saw something from Jill I want to bring in. Yes, absolutely. That's another thing that I should say about something I do try with my challenges as well is when it's possible, I do a lot of seasonal stuff, but I do like it to kind of work for other seasons. And one thing I meant to mention earlier is if you do a pumpkin platform that uses the small pumpkins, another way that you can reuse this material and another challenge is if you were to do the apples ahead challenge, where they have to create something to balance an apple on their head. I think a pumpkin's a little bit easier because it has that flatness on the bottom. And if you're like, what are you talking about, Carrie? I don't know what apples ahead is. You can check out my YouTube channel. There's a walkthrough of that challenge. And that's Feel Good Teaching. Just go to YouTube and search for Feel Good Teaching. You'll find it. Okay. I'm going to show you some more pictures in just a second, but I want to go back to the screen. And I need to take that picture out. I always forget that the picture doesn't go away magically. But anyway, you can see there are lots of different materials options here. And then let's take a look at the criteria and constraints list. So now we're into the 4 pages that are student pages. And what I tried to do is put some little notes out in the margin space so that if students are doing this, getting this assigned to them in distance learning, that if they get into a position where they're kind of confused, I tried to sort of get ahead of it and make a little note to them. So on this criterion constraints list, I decided that the pumpkins had to be at least above the ground 1 inch. What I was thinking at the time is that whatever platform you make should probably be the height of whatever your pumpkin is. So if I was making a platform for this, my requirement would be, probably 3 inches. I don't know if I'd measure to the top of the stem or not, but I sort of approximate it. And you could even change, because this is all editable, you could even change how you write this, whether it's something you want to have them practice measurement, or whether it's something you just want to say, hey, it's got to be off the ground at least as tall as the pumpkins are, whatever you're using for your pumpkin. You could do that. And then I wanted to make it a little bit interesting. And so I'll explain that with the second criterion: challenge yourself to make the lightest weight pedestal, platform, or tower possible. But I understood, like, if kids are at home or even if they're in school, you might not have access to a scale. So I just wrote, if you don't have a scale, that's okay. Just try to keep lightweight in mind when you're creating your design, just so that they're sort of trying to limit themselves in the materials that they're using. And I'll bring this back in a moment when we talk about how the kids are going to measure their results, because you have options on this, obviously. And then I kept the constraints super, super simple. They're only allowed to use materials that you've approved or their parents if they're at home. And then the design may not be supported or propped against a wall or any other object or person. I want it to be a freestanding tower, platform, pedestal. Again, if there's anything in here you don't like, you can just change it. It's all editable, and just change it before you send it out. Now I want to talk about this, and then I'm going to come back and show you some examples, some more picture examples of this right afterwards, okay? So this is the first of the pages where the students are going to start analyzing, recording sort of results and analyzing their designs. In this section up here, if you're printing this out and using that version, that they'll just draw a picture in the space, and they'll label it, like, with measurements. When I say label it, that's what I'm looking for, is like, is it this part is 6 inches tall and this part is 4 inches wide, or whatever. And then if they're doing this at home, then usually what they do, they have the option. They can try to use a drawing tool, but usually what they do is just take pictures and put them in on top. And I actually kind of like that, because then you can see it a little bit better. You could even have them insert like a flip grid, like a video or something into that space if you wanted to. Or you can make another slide that's separate for that if they wanted to include videos. That's up to you. You can duplicate things and add it as, oh, that's another thing. If you have them do multiple designs, you can just duplicate the slides as many times as you need. Now for this page, I put 2 different options for directions so that you can choose as the teacher, before you assign it out, what you want them to do. But I wanted to walk you through this so you noticed it and you didn't leave both things here. So The first one is the simpler version, and that's just measure your design to the highest point. And if your design happens to be topped by a pumpkin, you can measure to the top of that pumpkin. If you have a scale, weigh your design in ounces or grams. If you don't, then they're just going to put NA right here. And then the other version, which I think is kind of fun for older students, especially who maybe have done just a regular height tower before, if you want to kick it up just a little bit of a notch, I think this could be really interesting. So instead of doing just your tower to the highest point, measure the height of each of your 10 pumpkins to the top of its stem, record the sum of these heights. If you have a scale, weigh your design in ounces or grams, and if you don't, write NA. And then in this section, it just tells them what they should be doing about their materials and their designs. And then one other thing is I left the lines in here so that you could change it for the printable versions if you wanted to. But obviously, you don't need the lines for the kids who are doing this at home. So you can decide ahead of time. I just decided to put it, it's actually in the directions box up here for the kids to delete the lines and then move the text boxes over. Another option, if you don't want them to do that step, although I think that they can probably handle that just fine. But if you don't think they can handle that, you can make your own copy of this and just have a print copy where you're doing your edits for that and your Google Sites, like paperless version that you're assigning out to kids. So let me tell you why, give you a couple of examples of a couple of different designs and why I thought that might be interesting to do the pedestals, because I think you'll get things at different heights. Actually, let me show you this one first. So this is like the super simple version where I kept the criteria as you just need some kind of platform, pedestal, or tower that keeps your 10 pumpkins at least an inch off of the ground. And this would suffice, right? This works just fine for that. And that could actually probably even support a mini, like a big, like the actual like live pumpkin, like the mini pumpkin. And it would probably be fine, right? But if I were to measure each of these are all probably about an inch off the ground because they're all about the same thing. So the total value of this design would be about 10 inches, right? But if I did something like this, these 4 are going to be one, like a certain height, right? And then the next 4, and then these 2 up here. If I put the sum total of them together, it could be really interesting to see what designs yield, because it's not necessarily going to be the tallest tower that results in the highest total sum of where you can put the pumpkins, right? So I think it creates something that's a little bit more interesting. And then you might get a hybrid design like this, right? Where someone's trying to build all 10 at the highest level possible. And then another thing you could do, and then we'll move right on, because I know this is one of the things, as I said, I want to keep it as simple and streamlined as possible. So if you've already got what you need, you can go. And I won't be insulted. But I like to give you options to make it a little bit more interesting for you and for your kids, especially if they're like in the 4th, 5th grade and above. They've done a tower before, so it might be fun to like add a different kind of a version of a tower than they maybe are used to doing. And I really like the possibilities here. Another thing you can do, if you're pretty sure they're going to have a scale, if they're in your class, for example, and you have a scale, you could even do a total score for the challenge, for the design. And the way I would do the score, because I remember I asked, I want them to do a lightweight design. What I would do is the 10 pumpkins, the sum of the height minus the weight measured in whatever you think, ounces or grams. And that's their total score. If you think they'll enjoy the competitive nature of that, that could be a fun thing to do. Okay, back to these pages. We're almost done. And if you have questions, remember, you can ask them and I will answer them. So moving right along, we have the next page, which is Analyze Designs. And the same thing here is just basically, hey, kids, you're going to want to click on that, get rid of the lines, drag your text boxes over, or as a teacher, you can do that ahead of time. And then we have some comparing designs, because one of the things that I think is really important, and one of the things that we can sometimes skip for time, but we really shouldn't, is all of that post-design analysis that actually makes the STEM challenge worthy of like instructional minutes. Yes, they're fun, and sometimes you just do them just for fun, and I get that, and that's good. But it's even better if you have the kids really like take a moment to like look, try to identify patterns, try to understand what's happening, try to understand what sorts of designs worked well and didn't, and then try to figure out what are the common factors among the designs that did do well. What would I do a second time? Let them do it a second time. there are lots of different ways and places you can go with this. So I'll try not to be on my soapbox for too long, but don't skip that step, because the discussion, the sharing of designs, the giving and getting feedback that they do with their peers is where most of the magic really happens with STEM challenges. And those design analysis handouts are a really good starting point for that. And like I said, one thing you might want to consider is adding in maybe a slide with directions on, if they're going to be doing, if they're distance learning and they're doing Flipgrid or Seesaw or whatever, how they can share with their class, and whether or not you have any sort of like, even like maybe a choice board or a menu where they watch 3 of their classmates' videos and like give them feedback or something like that. Those are just some extra options to move it along and make it give a little bit of a deeper dive if you want. All right, I think that I have covered everything that I meant to. One thing that I missed is forced copies of the Google Slides. Some of the school districts, especially if you're using a school district email, when you go to make your copy of the Google Slides, it should bring up a screen that says make a copy of whatever the file name is, and then you just make a copy. If it brings up a screen that says that you don't have permission to edit and you need to request, that means your school district is blocking access. And don't request permission, because it won't even work if I give it to you. Most of the time, the district blocks the email. It blocks anything with a link. So what you need to do in order to access the Google Slides, if you see the request to edit permissions, something like that, what you need to do is log out of your school email account, log into a personal account, click it again. It'll let you make the copy. Then you can share it with yourself however you like, and it'll work. So that is the last thing, I think. Yes, it is the last thing on my list. And I don't have any comments or questions that I haven't covered already. So I will see you back here same time tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about pirate ships. And I guess that's it for now. I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.